The Portuguese Navy of the 15th and 16th centuries is remembered as one of the most powerful in history. It was responsible for the creation of the first global empire, being the first to see all the continents on the planet. Furthermore, it is also remembered for having been fierce in battle due to his naval wars with the Castilians, Egyptians, Somalians, Turks, and many others. But when did it undergo its baptism of fire? Since the rule of the first king of Portugal that it was understood by the Portuguese the extreme importance of controlling important naval bases. That was one of the reasons Afonso sought to conquer Alcácer do Sal, a very important port for the Muslims, from where they conducted raids against Portugal. Immediately after conquering it, pirate and corsair attacks reduced tremendously, proving the monarch was right. But something else was needed to put an end to the raids, for the biggest one of them came from Seville in 1179. 9 galleys, led by the Almohad Ghanim Ben Mardanis, entered the Tagus estuary and captured 2 Portuguese ships. Furthermore, it destroyed great parts of the outskirts of Lisbon. The enterprise also resulted in a huge financial loss for the Portuguese, because the Islamic sailor brought many spoils back to Seville. The king realized a big response was necessary, so he called for one of his most trusted nobles, Fernão Churrichão, to take care of the matter. In the same year of the Almohad raid, Churrichão proposed to the king a revenge with the goal of reaching the place where the Muslim fleet had come from, Seville. The king accepted the proposal, and in the summer of 1179, the Portuguese armada, led by Prince Sancho and accompanied by Churrichão, left the Tagus Valley, reached and sacked Salch, and then sailed up the Guadalquivir River, reaching Seville, where many Amazigh galleys were destroyed, as well as the Arrabal. The expedition was a great success, and when it returned to the Tagus again, it was received in celebration by everyone. The Almohad Caliph was enraged, and now sought his revenge against the Portuguese. So in 1180, he placed Mardanis and his brother as the leaders of a fleet of 9 galleys which had the intent of raiding the Portuguese coast and conquer territories. The armada first reached Lisbon, where it pillaged its Arrabal and captured some ships that were passing by. A few kilometers away from Lisbon, a Portuguese galley, guarding the Tagus Valley, noticed the attack and quickly spread the news of the assault. The king was in Coimbra when it was taking place and immediately called for Fernão, who was in Porto de Mós, to attack the Almohads. The monarch sent the noblemen reinforcements and galleys so that the disparity in the number of men wasn't too great. Unfortunately, the Muslim admirals became aware of the Portuguese galleys that arrived to Porto de Mós, and suddenly the port became much more attractive than Lisbon. In addition, the Berbers realized the conquest of Lisbon was impossible. Thus, they sailed north to reach Porto de Mós, and there destroyed the bulk of the Portuguese Navy. A few days later, the Portuguese fleet sighted the Muslim ships of the brothers, but decided not to attack them, for their admiral wasn't with them and was still on land. The Muslims themselves preferred to dock their ships south of Porto de Mós, though a couple of galleys kept sailing to the location. The bulk of the Almohads would march on foot with the intent of capturing Fernão and sack the place. But on the 10th of July, the unexpected for the Berbers happened. The 2 armies reached one another. The Muslims had 300 men, while the Portuguese 250. Though the Portuguese were less, they had an advantage. Fernão already knew where the Almohads were gonna be, so the Portuguese march was careful. The men had time to rest, and the nobleman would be the one choosing the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Muslims had been walking under the sun, disorganized, for a long time. The battle ended in a huge Portuguese victory, with the brothers even being captured by the nobleman. When it comes to the Muslim galleys that kept sailing, they eventually reached Porto de Mós, where 2 days later after their arrival, they would learn of the defeat of their fellow men. The retreat was thus immediate. The problem was that very few soldiers were aboard the ships, and even worse, fresh water was becoming scarce by the hour. So the Muslim ships made their way to Sesimbra, to the mouth of the Sedo River, where hopefully the Berbers would get some fresh water. Fernão heard of this, assembled a few galleys, and sailed quickly to Sesimbra, where he had the goal of capturing all of the remaining Muslim galleys. On the 15th of July, the nobleman reached his foes as he was sailing around Cape Spichel. There, the Muslim ships and the Portuguese ones battled. The result was that all of the Almohad boats were captured, one by one, as the soldiers were very few. Thus, Fernão Churrichão brought the full bulk of the Muslim boats that had been sent in the raid with him to Lisbon, where he was received with great enthusiasm. The conflict marked a huge victory for Portugal and served as a great humiliation to the large Almohad Caliphate. The spectacular end to the raid off the coast of Cape Spichel was Portugal's first of many victories at sea. Thus, July of 1180 will always be remembered to many as the date the Portuguese Navy was born.